mic on? OK. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Kim, for that introduction. As mentioned, my name's Jessica Blair. I'm the Managing Director of Cultural Engagement at When We All Vote, which is an organization in the US founded by former First Lady Michelle Obama in 2018. And we work to increase participation in each and every election. And what I do specifically is essentially leveraging cultural industries and entities to reach our organizational goals. And I'm joined by Mete Coban, who's the Chief Executive of My Life, My Say, an organization based in the UK that does very similar work. So today we're going to talk to you about how our different countries work in similar ways to engage youth voters. So why do young people not vote? For a long time, narratives around the youth vote have centered around apathy, that young people just do not care about politics, do not care about voting, when in fact, young people are neither apathetic nor ideologically disengaged. Their lives are simply not set up for voting. Oftentimes, young people are attending college, sometimes far away from home. They work in jobs that give them little to no autonomy over their own schedules. They lack access to transportation, and they just generally live more nomadic lives.
One of the other reasons why young people tend to not vote is because of the lack of civic education. So I've got three stats that I want to share from the perspective of the UK. So 100% of young people currently receive no education around how democracy works in the UK. 46% of young people, according to a poll that we conducted with the Opinion, said that they had very little knowledge or tools in confidence to be able to engage with democracy. And 72% of young people who responded to that poll said that they have very little trust in politicians or political institutions to be able to make change for the issues that they care about. And really building on Jessica's point, which is that it's not that young people don't care about issues that affect them. Of course they do. The problem is they don't see traditional forms of politics as a vehicle to address the issues that they care about. Moving on to talk about our strategy and our tactics and how we engage with young people in our respective countries, I think the first important thing to note is when we're talking about how we can engage with young people is defining who do we mean by young people. Because young people aren't one big homogenous group. There are lots of different intersectionalities that exist, depending on your age range, depending on which age range you're talking about, depending on where you live within geographically, but also some of your characteristics that also help define your lived experiences. So it's so important that when you are thinking about devising your strategy to encourage young people to participate in democracy, you really understand that there is no one-size-fits-all approach. And you have to have a multi-layered, multifaceted approach in how you engage with young people. And really at the heart of that, which is what it says on the presentation, which is meet young people through their way the most trusted messengers with authentic content. So rather than creating a space called My Life, My Say, or When We All Vote, and expecting people to come to you, it's about identifying where do young people go to in their day-to-day social and digital lives, and think about how you can connect with them in those places, which is what we're going to be talking about.
Right, and we really tested this strategy at When We All Vote in our 2020 campaign, when we initially also assumed that apathy was the enemy, until we dug into the research and learned it was really the unique barriers to voting. As an aside, I also like to say that we also tried really hard to make voting cool to young people until we very quickly learned that by trying to make something cool almost inevitably makes it very uncool. So to engage youth voters, we're always looking for new ways to leverage media and technology. And Community is a direct SMS platform that connects celebrities, brands, and media companies to fans directly in the US. And in 2020, we partnered with Community to enlist their top-performing celebrities on the platform to send daily texts to their newly turned 18-year-old fans, wishing them a happy birthday and congratulating them on obtaining the right to vote. And we included a link to voter registration directly in the text. And we found that fans who received our voter registration link through Community text were 10 times more likely to go through the registration process than those who engaged with the link on Instagram or Twitter, or X.
Building on the point that we made about the lack of civic education, what we found most impactful through voter registration campaigns, it's about how do you make sure that young people have the right information and the tools to be able to go out and to vote. So we're going to talk about National Voter Registration Day in the UK and US a bit later in this presentation. But one of the most impactful tools have been, it's about how do you use digital content that really helps support young people understand how do they vote, where do they go to vote, how do they register to vote, what are all the tools that are available to them, how do they help make an informed decision about what to vote, who to vote for, and how to vote. So it's really important that the media and technology has a huge role to play, especially if you use the right messages and brands, which we're going to be talking about.
Right. So another way that we reach people where they are is through brands that they have affinity with. So in 2021, When We All Vote worked with over 70 corporations to advocate for the passing of the For the People Act, which would have worked to directly combat some of those unique barriers that young people face and would have made voting just more equal and accessible for all voters.
And really at the heart of this, going back again to the main approach of our strategy, meeting young people where they are, an interesting partnership that we're currently working on with My Life, My Say in the UK is, for example, you would see a Lime bike on the screen. A Lime, it's a mobility bike for people to use, and it's got a huge demographic of young people who use it. So one of the things that we're working with Lime Bike is around making sure that we've got an app integration. So when you go on the app, you will see a register to vote link as soon as you go in it on that day. But also, we're unlocking a code where young people are able to access a Lime Bike to go to polling station, calling Lime to Polls, for free. So it's about addressing the point that Jessica made around sort of making transportation more accessible for young people. Similarly, it's about working with brands like Apple, who we're working with in the UK, to make sure that we're getting young people out through their sort of app. But also it's about making sure that we're working with the right youth organizations, recognizing that there are lots of trusted youth organizations that have existed for many decades, particularly working with underrepresented communities, and how do you utilize those organizations.
And another way that we reach young people where they are is through influencers and celebrities. And I know what you're probably thinking, using celebrities as spokespeople for charities and advocacy is a tried and potentially even antiquated strategy. But I still believe there's a place for celebrities in the advocacy world. Given the very limited media budgets that we work with as a nonprofit organization in the US, the reach that a celebrity is able to garner just on their owned and operated social media channels is invaluable. And then couple that with a celebrity who has a very engaged and loyal fan base, the potential for impact can be quite stunning. Just last week, for National Voter Registration Day, Taylor Swift posted a call to action for her fans to register to vote on her social media channels and garnered over 13,000 click-throughs a minute, which resulted in 35,000 voter registrations just in that day. And to provide some context for that, last year in the midterm elections, 79 US House seats were decided by less than 35,000 votes, which makes up essentially 20% of the entire House.
Building on National Voter Registration Day and the campaign Jessica talked about, National Voter Registration Day is a concept that started off in the US. We imported it into, one of the good things that we imported from the US actually, in 2021. And it's about how do we make sure that we have a day, collective action, where people are able to encourage their family, friends, neighbors, their employees to register to vote. So that day involves, it's a non-partisan campaign supported by all major political parties in the UK. And what we do is we have a whole day of action, including with influencers, celebrities, trusted brands, youth organizations. And just last year, we got over 85,000 people registered to vote in a non-general election year, which is quite a big achievement in the context of the UK. And so really the learnings from what you've heard from this presentation is, one is meet young people where they are. I can't emphasize that enough. It's really important that we actually go to where young people are, particularly around their sort of what they do around their social and digital lives. The second area that I wanted to talk about is how do we make sure that we as well as how important the influencer celebrity engagement and the brands are, it's really important that young people are also able to see people just like themselves who are advocating. So really having that peer-to-peer outreach and the engagement is incredibly impactful during sort of voter registration.
And then similar to what Mete mentioned earlier, we know that young people today take a lot of pride in the many dimensions of their identity. We cannot treat young people like one homogenous voting bloc. We need to create a multitude of on-ramps for young people to engage in civic behaviors and civic engagement. And then lastly, especially in the US, we've seen a lot of great success with promoting policies to specifically tackle those unique barriers that young voters face, like online voter registration, automatic voter registration, mail-in voting. So working to sort of tackle those barriers at the policy level has proven to increase voter turnout, not just for young voters, but for all voters. So we could sit here and talk about this for hours, but that is all the time we have, and we would love to meet you all and talk about some of the strategies that you've been using in your respective work. And yeah, we look forward to meeting you.